We're ready. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're ready.
All right. Good morning. It's now 9:45, and I would like to call the Sewage and Water Board Strategic Planning Committee to order. Special counsel, please call the roll.
Director Antrim. Here. Director Scruggs.
Present.
Director Cole. Director Howard. Director Thomas.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's also let the record reflect that we have Director Payshode here as well. We have two presentation items today. I'm very excited about these. First up, we have Caitlin Timarack, our Deputy General Superintendent, and Chris Bergeron, our Chief Engineering, here to share with us an update on the Water Quality Master Plan update. Go ahead. Great to have you.
Good morning, everyone. I know we talked about the Water Quality Master Plan a couple times. I know Steve Nelson had brought an update a couple months ago to this committee. We want to talk about where we are in the project and what we plan on doing in 2026 and some of the major initiatives and what we're going to start implementing out of it, it looks like in it. Again, overall idea of the plan was to start with a full facility assessment on both treatment plants, and it kind of delves down into a bunch of what CDM Smith called transmittals. So a bunch of different tasks that they were asked to do: water quality analysis, the demand and supply analysis, all these different transmittals that ultimately build into a development of a 5-year and 30-year capital improvement program. To date, we've already gotten to the 5-year capital improvement program that was built into our capital budget request for 2026, and then a full alternatives development of the water quality treatment plants themselves and what we can do long-term over the next 30 years. That is near completion. And then part of their task, which is going to extend out probably through 2026 for CDM Smith, is to help us with some other preliminary designs that we choose if we need their assistance to kind of help guide us towards, hey, there's something we want to do, for example, with the lime systems, if that's how we want to move forward with it. We've already identified a lot of these things. I know Steve had brought the pipe loops to this committee before about that, about corrosion control and how we can optimize what we do with the plant, and then develop the 5-year capital programs, like I said. The roadmap is going to be challenging because of what we need to do overall. But going back to the pipe loops, in the laboratory upstairs of the Carrollton Water Plant, we set up 24 different pipe loops to study what effects increased chlorides had on actual lead service lines and different materials. This was mostly in response to the saltwater intrusion event we had a couple years ago, and how those things would have impacted us, because that was the unknown at the time, right? If chloride levels increased in the river, what happens to our lead service lines, among other things, but that was the big unknown. That's not something that there's really a big test case for in the country. It was a bit of a unique situation for us. So we are able to test different chemicals and what those responses are. The transmittal that came back from this had a lot of graphs. I'm going to focus on this one that I highlighted here because it goes into the addition of zinc orthophosphate. I know this graph can look a little scary because the numbers are very high at the start. There's a big asterisk there that it starts very high because we just disturbed an actual lead service line, right? That's the biggest trigger for an increased lead level on a test is if you disturb the lead line, lead's going to be in the water. So you needed a couple months of a baseline for that to come back down, and you can see it jumps around. And the big initiative that is getting recommended is the addition of zinc orthophosphate. And you can see that in that phase 2 where it kind of stabilizes it after a few months. So the way zinc orthophosphate works is it creates a bit of a corrosion barrier on it. It creates a coating inside the pipe, but it takes a long time to start activating and start building that. Because you can really tell, and these graphs ended after middle of last year, but if we did kind of continue it a little bit longer, it really stabilizes it. And you can really tell that what was important about this test is after adding the saline water, increasing the chlorides, it didn't jump up dramatically. So again, this is in a bubble, right? This is one pipe loop. It doesn't actually reflect necessarily what we see in our system. So seeing these numbers jump above the 10 micrograms per liter level is not an alarming thing for us for when you talk about the entire system, but it's really just a test case to prove that zinc orthophosphate can help stabilize that. So we've seen it, and in these tests, it was fairly consistent between 30 and 50% reduction in that I call it the bleeding effect of lead in those test loops. So it's been encouraged us to really start this process as soon as we can, because the longer it is in place, the better that effect is. And of course, we have the deadline approaching for the LCRI that once you exceed that 10 action level, things change. So the longer we can do this, the better it is for us.
Can you go back to the graph real quick? I just want to make sure I'm understanding exactly what I'm, so the first phase is just Carrollton Water in the recently disturbed lead service
Right.
line. We don't have a reading of what that line would have looked like before it was disturbed because it was just a lead pipe that we.
Right. It was very important for their test that we used actual samples from our system rather than build a lead service line fresh.
And then you're adding from October to April, you're adding the zinc orthophosphate, but then on April 1st-ish, you're adding the saline
We had
water
a month of extra saline water to increase the chlorides.
along with the zinc orthophosphate. Do we know at what concentration was the saline?
I can't quite remember what it was, but it was consistent with what we were doing
What we
during
would have
solid.
seen.
So I think it was the 50 to 80 level chlorides was what we were kind of seeing, those elevated chlorides. This was not a 300 level event like we would have potentially seen. It was more of during those elevated chloride events, what those might look like.
And then at May, you remove the saline but
We
continue.
went back to normal just to kind of see if there were any extra bleeding effects and the after effects of it. So
And the red line is drawn at 10 because that's the action level.
that's where, yes.
Right, that EPA would say you've got to do something because you're exceeding.
In 2027 for LCRI? Is that the October
It's not
2027?
currently at 10, that's the
If
projected.
it's 15 is the present.
But we are looking forward, right? That's going to be the big number for us moving forward, so.
You mentioned that performs better over time. Is that because there's a cumulative effect the more that you're putting in it?
Yes, ma'am. It is.
Okay.
It builds in that coating, so the longer we can have that in place before an event, certainly the better for our customers.
Okay, and would we be putting this into the water indefinitely, or is there a period of time where it reaches its maximum efficacy and we can pause? Or?
It does need to continue to coat, so it would be indefinitely for us.
Okay.
And it would not replace our current corrosion control, it's an addition to.
It
our
would be an
existing corrosion
additional chemical, so the good news is, we're not an early adopter for this chemical.
Right, yeah,
This
no, I
is
know a
a
lot of
very,
utilities use zinc.
very well
phosphate, yeah.
widely used.
Yeah.
Approved by EPA, I have on here, but and Cristo and M costs are fairly dramatic. In Algiers, it would not be that impactful at $115,000 estimated, but $2.2 million yearly for our Carrollton treatment plant for additional chemical costs. So that's just something we have to budget for. There's no return on it in the short term.
Right.
It would be a long-term benefit if it helps us prevent breaching that action level in the future.
Yeah.
So there's almost like undefined benefits there. But it's,
Did we investigate switching strictly to zinc orthophosphate, and then we could do away with the chemical we're using now, or?
it would be a swap.
Oh, you would, okay, so it wouldn't be both
Right.
going forward.
Yes, it's, sorry.
Okay.
We're already adding orthophosphate, so this is a different concentration, and the addition of zinc is what helps create that protective barrier. So we're already doing corrosion control. It's a supplement to what we're already doing.
I see.
I do just want to reiterate that this is very much a proactive, forward-looking measure. We are not exceeding, the regulations either presently or calculations for the future. So I just want everybody to be very clear on that. This is something we would be doing as a very proactive measure to reduce the potential future risk, particularly in the event of a saltwater intrusive event. So just to be clear on that. Yeah, and as Chris said, this is something that is used around the country, and it will be a enhancement of what we're already doing.
No, I think this is fantastic because obviously when the saltwater intrusion event was happening, I think a lot of our responses were just sort of like, we think it's okay. We don't have necessarily all the information, but we're pretty sure. And when people were asking, what can we do? I think this is a great step that we've taken in the years since to say, when the next time it happens, we've done all of this work, that we're prepared, and we have ideas for what we'd like to implement so that we can protect ourselves for when it happens again. It's probably not an if, it's a when.
And it wasn't just that we didn't know, we were asking
Yeah,
water
no one
quality
knew.
experts,
Right,
and they
no
said,
one knew.
no, they don't know either. We can suspect that it would, but this gave us some concrete evidence that it would, and there's options for us to do to help prevent it.
And I think it's really incredible, and credit to this team, that we were the utility that got to just figure out what is going on and what is the solution.
All right. I did want to make a note. We've, talked about public outreach, and our team is working on that. I don't have anything of our own to share right now, but wanted to put some examples of what other utilities are, have just straight up on their website. So Providence Water and Pittsburgh Water have been doing this for some time, and they have a lot of information. So, public website, or, updating our website, doing some press releases, some public campaigns. We want to make sure everybody's very aware. This is safe. This is not changing the safety of your drinking water. We want to make sure everybody's aware of the situation. So we'll be making sure we have a robust messaging campaign around that.
Yeah, that's great.
I have a video from a utility in Canada, I think, that uses
Nice.
orthophosphate that goes into the concentrations of it in different food items and things
Yep.
like that. So I can send that to you as well.
Yeah, I think like Providence, I have an example of
Yeah.
10 to 15 liters of water equal to the amount of,
Yeah, 1 can of soda,
yeah,
yeah.
so.
It's really useful.
Yep. All right.
So as I mentioned, the main objective of this water quality master plan was the development of these CIPs. The short-term one was developed, we had it in our 2026 capital budget. The 30-year was more focused on the treatment plants themselves. It's a 110-year-old facility. What do we do over the next 30 years to kind of start pivoting that? Because it's inevitable at this point. So what they did end up doing after their full analysis of the entire plant, all the equipment, everything came to us, brought us 5 alternatives for different options of processes and really how to do it within our existing footprint. One of the things that were noted about was our sedimentation process is frankly not big enough as it is, even though if those of you who've walked that plant know those sedimentation basins are enormous. They're still not quite to the size that they should be for something of our level of treatment. So that was, for example, one of the alternatives. So instead of going to the traditional sedimentation, there's other options. There's a technology called ActiveFlow, which is very, very small footprint, and plate settlers, which is another passive type alternative. So they brought us all these and kind of a layout of the plant of how that would look and the phases to get there, and then the different filtration options we'd have, because those post-disinfection options change based on how you start the process. So it kind of, as we went down the line, it did kind of cross out some options as you make a selection on the first part and move forward. So we were brought these 5 alternatives. We had a scoring process based on all these different categories, and we got to weigh what was most important to us, right? Treatment performance was, well, frankly, every treatment option we brought to us gave us the performance that we needed, right? It was all going to give us the proper water quality in the end, but what was important to us, and especially the operations, was O&M costs and then reliability and maintenance moving forward. So And then the capital cost is, well, it was important to us as well, knowing the reality of trying to fund something. So we know that something of this magnitude, which is ultimately going to be over $1 billion, a phased approach was going to be necessary, right? Let's start with the first part of it being the sedimentation, which some of us believe is at highest risk of failure at the moment, and then start going to the next part, and then the next part, and the next part, and then kind of crossing that bridge as you get there. We selected the alternative for plate settlers. It's a faster pretreatment than what we have right now. It is a smaller footprint than we have right now. That's important. The challenge in it ultimately will be, how do we build a facility of that size? Even though it's smaller, it's still going to be large, and while still having our existing plant running. That's going to be the biggest conversion point here, because you still have to use the downstream parts of it to do that. So there will be some reconfigurations of the Carrollton plant to do this. Right now, our goal is to put out an RFP to solicit a designer this year to start this pre-design part. What CDM did as part of this task was more of, here are the technologies, here are your options to fit them in based on it, but it was a very, very high level estimate and idea behind it all. So what ends up happening is, and if you're familiar with our plant, so I probably should have put the existing footprint here beforehand. I'm realizing this now. This trapezoid right here is our existing sedimentation. By reconfiguring it all, you end up having a much smaller footprint on sedimentation and pretreatment, allowing you to then use the rest of the existing facility for sedimentation to build a new filter gallery on top of that facility, so that you can keep your existing filter galleries running. We can keep our existing contact basins in place while that's being constructed. So once we get past that sedimentation pretreatment phase of the new construction, future phases should be a little bit more, I won't say easier, but a little more tolerable, in that now you've kind of gotten past that first stage and you now have some breathing room from a site standpoint.
So you would be flipping, so you would do sedimentation and then filtration and then contact basins?
That is our alternative we selected. So then in the final product, the contact basins are covered.
So that you wouldn't have to do the filtration afterwards?
So you wouldn't have to, right? There's some caveats there. We have to ensure that we're not, right now these current basins have to be uncovered because we have to dredge them.
Yeah.
Because they're pre-treatment, they're pre-filtration.
Yeah.
We know that there's some line dosing going in there as well that we have to get out.
Yep.
So post-filtration allows you to cover them completely, because there should be no extra sediment getting in there. Everything's been filtered out. And it's something, I know that was, I think that was a question asked of us last time, is covering them for safety and security reasons. So that is part of it. It's just, that's a few steps away.
And so then would the existing filter galleries go away?
At this point, yes, we would know. At
Yeah.
this point, once that new
That's
filter
all
galleries,
done, yeah.
we can retire our existing filter galleries and free up some space there.
And to what extent did the team look at sort of more advanced technologies that would address things like PFAS or emerging contaminants?
Right now, there are no detectable PFAS in our water system. That was a consideration, future flexibility and things like that, and that was part of our analysis as well. I think the newer technologies for pretreatment, which would be Actiflow, there are some hesitations on our side for something like that. That is that it's really a maintenance problem. Not a problem, it's a challenge. Right now, the entire system is gravity, right? It gets pumped from the river to our system and it flows from gravities from end to end from there. Actiflow requires pumps. So you then have to increase that, and that's one more mechanical component to it all that can break and be maintained. That was the big part of our decision on plate settlers, is because it is more of a passive technology.
Makes sense. And that's the same challenge with membrane filtration?
That, yes. We haven't, so the good news is, because we're doing this phased approach, if we get through the sedimentation phase and we decide we do want to go from traditional filtration to a membrane, that option's still available to us. So we don't want to just lock ourselves into anything right now because we don't know when we're going to be at that point where we can talk about a new filter gallery.
Great.
So for 2026, what we talked about, right, we do need LDH approval to start implementing zinc orthophosphate. We will start with Algiers and then move over to Carrollton because of Algiers is frankly a very small initiative, especially a tote and pump, dosing pump. We're going to, part of the master plan also highlighted some efficiencies that we can do for coagulation process and reduce our need for lime for the pH control. That would be using ACH to replace the ferric sulfate we have. It ends up being a much smaller dosing of that. So then it reduces our need for lime, which we have seen has been getting into our contact basins. So hopefully we can do that change over the next couple of years. Also requires LDH approval.
Is there a cost difference, or is it just sort of offset?
That it would eventually offset. So if essentially what you're doing is you're swapping over a year's period to do that, and then you can start reducing your lime as you see it needed. I'd mentioned the RFP for the Carrollton Water Treatment Plant, design feasibility study, and then this 5-year CIP. I know it kind of went over that quickly, but there's a lot of items in there for that 5-year CIP that are, I'll say, urgent.
So this is more the things that we need to just stabilize the plant and continue to operate,
Yes.
rather than new things that would sort of.
I know, I think, I can't remember if it was in Steve's presentation, but my last presentation to the committee, I showed the matrix of what is most likely to fail versus what's most impactful when it fails. That analysis built into the 5-year CIP of what is our highest risk items and what would we get the most benefit from repairing in the short term. So that built into that CIP. There's an application submitted for state capital outlay to assist us with those repairs because some of them are quite costly.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, didn't really went straight into it.
You done?
Well,
Questions?
yeah, before we end on that one, I think, I guess I'm understanding that this was less a sort of formal plan document that was produced and more a series of sort of documents that that the consultant provided. Is there a plan to put those into a single document that we can adopt as our?
There is. Even though the alternatives have been selected, we've got our final transmittal for that alternative we did select, that still builds into the 30-year CIP. So that is not quite done. I expect that to be done in the next month for our review internally as a staff, and then it gets finalized into a final transmittal document. And then once that's done, that functionally completes the plan, which they will create like an executive summary, and then we can package it all together and formalize it and publish it.
Great. And so that'd be some, maybe beginning of Q2.
Probably summertime, I'd say, yes. Because ultimately it is that 2 documents, a CIP for 5-year and 30-year, referencing all the other transmittals that helps build into it. Yeah. And then the plan itself stays, we'll probably bring an amendment to extend out to the end of 2026. Even though the plan would be done, those pre-design items are still available to us as a task order for them.
And then the pipe loop study, I know that there was some work about that with the Water Research Foundation and other partners. Is that complete or is it still ongoing?
I believe that work is still ongoing, so it would be, and Chad can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are multi-year projects that the Water Research Foundation is doing. But we are participating, I believe, in at least 2 that will be sharing our data and can help nationally.
Great. Yeah. I just, it would be nice if there was something that we could share, in particular with you know, some of our partners who purport to have data around lead and water, so that we can help to sort of drive the conversation a little bit more around the great work that we're doing that is scientifically based and, you know.
Yeah, we can work on pulling something together. I think since the WRF studies are still in progress, right, those aren't deliverables that we have, but we can certainly, now that we're at this point, do some fact sheets or kind of one-pagers on what we've got, if that would be useful.
Yeah, I mean, if things are not complete, that's
Yeah.
one thing, but if some of it is complete and we can start to socialize that data, I think it's important to do so.
Yep.
Any other questions on the water quality master plan? No, for me. Great. Well, I think this is just a really great spot to be at. You know, I think it's a long time coming, and I think such a great demonstration of the staff that we have that are driving this work internally and helping to get us in a place where we know all the things that we need to do over the next few years in a more formal way. So thank you. All right, next we have our drainage system consolidation update from Dave Capel, our Director of Drainage Networks.
Hey,
Dave?
good morning, everyone. How you doing?
Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I put together these slides, as you'll tell. Usually Javier puts these together, but he's on parental leave, so I ran through them once.
Congrats
and
to Javier.
there's a couple- yeah, he's doing well. He's enjoying his time off. Doesn't want to hear from me.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. Where this all started is in 1992. The Sewage and Water Board transferred over the minor drainage system to the Department of Public Works, City of New Orleans, when the drainage millage was not renewed by the voters. Millage has been on the ballot many times since then, but is always voted down. Then coming into 2024, the governor signed Act 763, which brought back the minor drainage system to the Sewage and Water Board, and it was effective as of January 1, 2025. I have to point out that on January 1st, it was pretty hard line for DPW. They were very happy just to say it's yours now. Like, you know, everything was just given to us, and it was, they closed the books and they were done with it. Our new responsibilities, yeah, we received 1,600 miles of these smaller drain lines that are under 36 inches in diameter, 50,000 drainage manholes, and 76,000 catch basins. The existing responsibilities we had were the 210 miles of the closed canals that have 36 inches and above, and the 65 miles of open canals. Those are both unfunded. We, haven't done much in that area also. We have the 11 underpass drainage stations and the 14 main pump stations, and those are managed by our Drainage Ops Department. DPW transfer engagement, and I'm trying to follow the format you put together to answer your questions. We received 9 flush trucks, with 5 of them being functional. We didn't receive them until early March, and those were 4 Vacons. Not too old of models, but they were fair condition is putting it nicely. We've had to put a lot of maintenance into them and furnish them up with all their tools. The Vactor is a good working truck. It's actually in the shop right now. If I had to say something why I only have two crews that work for me right now is because our equipment is not very reliable. So I only have 1 vac truck working as of today. Hopefully by the end of the week I'll have 3. So it's a little tough. Inventory received, the catch basin assemblies, drainage manhole tops, inlet grates. We just received, we put in our capital purchase for this year the only thing we really did get was a crane truck. And so we're using the crane truck to go get the inventory from DPW. Support Services helped me out a little bit with grabbing some of their inventory. Part of their ARPA, they had $10 million in ARPA funds. They spent about $7.2 million, I think, in their cleaning. The rest in engineering, but $100,000 was put aside to purchase assemblies, catch basin assemblies. And so we're grabbing all that. We've been doing it pretty solid for about a week now. So we're really kind of filling up our yard. So I'll have a final count on what we've received probably in about a month.
Real quick question, what's the difference between a Vacon and a Vactor?
Just the manufacturer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're the same type of truck.
Okay. They're both flush trucks. Lessons learned. I contacted DPW, Josh Scott, their engineer who ran the ARPA program. And I said, hey, can I get a copy of y'all's contract and let's look at that and see what we can do to, change I've already had some preliminary meetings with them. And they had contracted by the linear foot, and they were cleaning clean pipe as well as dirty pipe because they were paying by the linear foot. So Javier and I sat down with them and we thought about this, and so we changed the contract to pay by the ton. So, and we also pre-assess. Now, they didn't pre-assess the pipes, they just went and cleaned. So we pre-assess the pipes, we figure out which ones are dirty, and we go after those. And that's more beneficial for us and the contractor, as, paying by the ton than, they have the urgency to go after the dirtier pipes, right, to get paid more money. So, and then we also require an after zoom camera video to make sure it's still clean. So that saved us that saves us a lot of money, and it's a good program. They paid full-time construction management. They had a construction manager out like with every crew every day. Like they were running 10 crews, they had 10 construction managers. The engineering firm did. I was they're doing the same thing every day, right? It's not, you really don't need a construction manager. The way we set up the contract, really, you don't need a construction manager. So with the engineering firm we had All South, the same firm. I basically cut out all construction management and saved us about $1.7 million.
So they had a full-time construction manager with every crew that
With
was
every
just
crew.
cleaning lines?
With every crew, yes. Yeah, with every crew.
All day long?
Yeah, great for the engineering firm, right?
Yeah.
I know there's some firms in here. Great for them. They made good money. And that was one of the first things that's like, I just didn't understand that. And they're doing the same thing, right? And I don't need a construction manager. Just show me the pipes clean in the end, right? So yeah, we saved a lot of money by doing that. So we put more money into cleaning.
Great.
So, maintenance and repair schedules, this is what we received from DPW, nothing. we didn't have basically say, oh, look to the 311 for the backlog. I said, okay. So,
Quick
That's
question.
right, yeah.
So at what point do you all speak with legal to make sure that our standard number one is the terms of the contract moving from the linear foot model, what have you, so that way we have a standard when it comes to RFPs that go out? Or are we doing this?
We didn't meet with
internally now?
them. We just did it as in my department. I mean, legal sees what we do.
So there's
But I'm
no
not sure. I'm not sure if they were aware.
Before the contracts are executed, it
Yeah,
goes through
yeah.
legal.
It goes through legal. Yeah, I'm not sure if they were aware that I changed the format. I might have told them,
Okay.
said I'm
I just
switching
want
to
to make
this
sure
to
that
this.
we're connecting with legal, so that way going forward, that this is a standard.
Yeah, Mary was very heavy at the time into the transition.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess you probably saw
Yeah,
that.
we pretty much,
Yeah,
the departments pretty much connect with us when we are
yeah,
doing
for the
things
whole
of that
thing.
nature.
I was just, for that one point, I'm not sure if I'd mentioned at one point, but they look at the whole contract.
And so afterwards, was there any pushback once you changed the terms, or are these contracts going forward? Or
We
how-
had an RFP out.
Okay,
So anyone bidding on it knew what our terms were.
okay,
So there was no issues there at all.
okay.
Yeah.
And then the reduction of the construction management, that's new in our RFPs, that's not a.
That's on the engineering side.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
And we'll look further down. It depends on my funding this year. Actually, that'll be in-house, and I have a
Okay.
construction manager in my department now, and he'll just
So that'll
spot
be
check.
internally
Yeah,
with
yeah.
us.
Mhm. And I
Okay,
just need
thank
spot
you.
checks. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good questions. All right, our 2025 drainage stats. I'd add 2024 also. That's what the city did. And if you look at what they did, they removed about 4 million pounds of debris with their $7.2 million. Our CES, same contractor, by the way, CES was working for them, now they're working for us. Our contractor removed almost 10 million pounds. You can see there's not as many lines cleaned, but they were only going after the dirty lines, right? So, and that takes longer. Actually, their production, when they were working for the city, they were doing about 600 linear feet a day. When they started doing the way we're doing now, it's about 300 linear feet a day. So you can see that in the numbers. because it takes a lot longer to clean a dirty pipe. So, and then our in-house progress, we did pretty well. We were pretty high on the catch basin cleanings. We had, 27 miles of clean pipe. I have to say that I didn't have a zoom camera at that point, so some of these might have been a little bit like the 2024 where we were cleaning some clean lines in that number. That's a little, But now I do have a zoom camera, and anything that we say is cleaned has been post-checked. And I have just a little, you can see these numbers on the dashboard, and the dashboard site is down there.
For the in-house crew, or I guess for both crews, I'm assuming they didn't hit the ground January 1st of 2025.
No.
Some lag in some of this, right?
Yeah, and I'll come,
okay.
right here, I'll answer that for you. So we started off using the same criteria. We're also using All South Engineers. The same criteria they were using with DPW is to target the high 3.1 concentrations and the flood-prone areas. In-house, we were targeting mostly catch basins. Pre-assessment, I talked about this already, and how the production went from 600 to 300 feet per day, but removing basically 2 times the amount of material. When double the debris removal, as I said. We cleaned, overall, if you look at the numbers, about 12% of catch basins throughout the year we cleaned, and about 6% of the drain main lines cleaned. Neighborhoods cleaned, we had the Lower Garden District, Carrollton, and downtown CBD. And the Treme area, sorry, that should be on there. Here's your question. The contractor started work actually on June 23rd. And it'll make sense as I get to our funding, why we started then. And then we placed them on hold November 26th, and I'll explain that more in the next slide. In-house collection of inspection assessment data. We use the CNO's new asset management software, Cartograph. So we use that in-house, but we didn't use that with the contractor. We don't have the support from the city for, those are big work orders to get those into the system and work. We're going to, hopefully when we get our new asset management system, which I voted on earlier today, not hopefully, we'll have everything going into that new asset management system. That's why I've asked it to be on the front end of that so we can get that moving. Prior to having department staff, I used Networks crews, and a couple times even before we got their vac trucks, we used some of the Networks vac trucks to go get some locations that the city council had sent to us, like this area is bad or this catch basin needs to be cleaned. So we didn't hit the ground running, but we tried. Right? It was tough.
I think if you go back to the previous slide, you had half the time, and you did double the debris.
So with the city, I don't believe that they started January 1 either. I think they worked 7-8 months.
But still,
like
what they were doing in 1 year, and we only had half a year really to do it.
True. Yes.
We're
5 months.
already,
Really 5 months time. No, I think we have a great program in place to establish what we need to establish for the industry standard. I think we're there. We just need the money.
So just following on from Director Antrop's point about comparison and essentially trying to measure success. If you can go back to the slide with all the, so I can appreciate miles and pounds and the numbers, but help us understand what success looks like, how we should look at this and say, okay, this was a successful program versus this was mediocre versus this is not hitting. You know what I mean?
Successful program, I think it would be meeting industry standard, which would be cleaning 20% of the system a year.
Okay.
Okay, we cleaned 6%. They cleaned, what was theirs? Almost 11% when you look at their drain lines cleaned. So together, 2-year totals is about 17%. Okay. So in 2 years, we haven't met the industry standard.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The goal is to meet the industry standard, right?
That's the goal, yes.
Absolutely.
This is just a quick snapshot of the public-facing dashboard and what you'd see. A lot of the little dots are 311s that basically our crews attack. The yellow areas were the DPW 2024 areas. The blue areas are the 2025 cleaning areas. There's the one, I don't have a pointer, up in the east that will change to 2026 because we didn't get to it. And then there should be another blue area down in the CBD, and that's not shown. So those will be updated.
So right now we're playing catch up with it, and then after this, we're going to have a routine maintenance schedule for it, or how does that work?
Yes, and yes, and that's our goal. All funding, it all depends on the funding, how my routine goes. But of course, I'm going to try to go back through the areas as I finish an entire 100% of the system. I'm going to go back to what I started first. How quickly do I do it? Current schedule, I'm doing it every 13 years, right? It needs to be every 5 years.
It needs to be every 5 years.
Yes,
I know
20%,
that-
20% a year.
20%, because I know previously they had PSAs going out talking about residents cleaning their own, and it's just like, what is the actual, schedule or of maintenance? But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to note, though, that it's still important for residents to clean in front of the catch basin. You know, like I try to keep mine swept, every time I see leaves or trash in front of it, I try to keep it swept because the more stuff you can keep out of it, the less often we need to come in and open it.
Yeah, and that's on the website also, that it's a city ordinance, that actually homeowners are by ordinance supposed to keep that 1.5 feet from the back of the curb out into the street clean.
Clean
and the
tell us
grass.
How to, and I
Oh, they didn't know, it doesn't say how to, it just says, you just
'cause-
sweep it up.
Because if you told me, clean my catch basin.
Oh,
do I get in
that's
it,
the curb,
and-
that's the gutter, that's cleaning the
Yeah,
gutter. The catch
so-
basin, we're never gonna come out
Yeah,
there and say,
okay.
clean your own catch basin.
Gotcha.
That's too much of a risk for us. But cleaning the curb, yes.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And picking up
Thank
your grass clippings.
Plus, you would not be able to live.
Yeah.
Really, that's actually a really good point around the community engagement. I know the time that I've been here, I don't know
Yes.
that I can recall any push or nudge or flyer or something that says, hey, remember, you need to get out there and clean it. So maybe there's some low-hanging fruit there to get community engaged. I actually have a strategic question. So any particular strategic risks presented by this consolidation that didn't exist when these two entities were operating, or this was sort of split?
Strategic, not that.
No?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I think we only see opportunities, right, at this
Yeah.
point for us all to have it, the entire drainage system under our roof.
All right, good. You want to say something?
Yeah.
We can
Just a
strategize
question.
and control it better.
Do we have any idea where we are on potential funding?
I'm getting
This
to
is
that.
Okay.
I'm getting there. All right, this is just another illustration that's put up on the website. And it's
Really
just
quick,
kind
as we're talking about sort of like public engagement, were we transferred the city's Adopt a Catch Basin program as well? Or was there any conversation about that in the?
I talked to Steve about that in the initial, and then we haven't talked about it again.
Yeah, we'll
But I've
initiate
done-
conversations on that going
Yeah.
forward and see where the city is with that and then where we want to move forward with.
Yeah. Steve and I discussed that originally, and I hadn't had any push on that myself.
So I think it was a pretty successful program for a little while, and I think the city sort of let it go, but I know it's still online, and it does exist, so it would seem like something that we would want to take over.
Yeah, I had a couple of community engagements that we went out to, and I provided the flush trucks, and we opened them up. We opened up the catch basins, and the citizens got to clean them, and we closed them back up, which was nice.
And I like what you're saying as far as the adopt a catch basin, because it keeps it in front of mind in the community, so.
Yeah, and I think to that end, to the extent that we can maybe start to think, as we're advancing the complexity of the program we're creating, start thinking about like maybe there are certain times of the year when we have, for instance, when the live oak trees lose their leaves, we send out a bill insert or an electronic notification to the customers that are on the portal that like, hey, right now is a really good time to sweep in front of your catch basin.
We've discussed that.
Yeah.
Okay, drainage funding for 2025. I want to show you how the original estimate that was given to me at the start of the year. You see the numbers there, the traffic enforcement devices. That was nice. Special fair share allocation, that would have been nice. We did the IMF, we have that 25%. If you see the 25% former DPW share of IMF, it says the original estimate's 5 million, revised at 6.2 million. Those are the monthly payments that come to us. In the table on the right, that shows you what we've received to date. And I also put the month received, because it's very important. That's why we started right in June, because you can see when I received monies. I received that one-time CNO ARPA payment. I believe that was in March. We received that. And then in April, I didn't start receiving funding from the IMF until April. Important to note that. And that's, you know, I was not going to put out a, you know, the contract for CS is $9.3 million. So I was, you know, and I'm putting out small, you know, smaller couple $1 million work orders at a time as I receive money. So we did receive the one-time CNO ARPA funding, but you know, originally I thought I'd be having $18.9 million. In May, that was revised. The traffic cameras came down. These are numbers that are just given to me. I don't have the, you know, I'm not face-to-face with whoever's doing this. Special fair share allocation, they said we weren't going to get it. I believe that was in support of the terrorist attack. They took the $5 million. I think that went to the police for the terrorists. That's the story that I had received. So I didn't receive that because it obviously went somewhere else. And then an update was I was getting about $6.2 million from the IMF. And then received from City of New Orleans to date. That's the third column, received from City of New Orleans. The traffic devices haven't received it. We'll probably not receive that. Didn't receive the special fair share. To date, $4.8 million with the IMF funds. I have not received November and December yet, so that's important to note. I think I will hear when I'm going to receive those, maybe in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So we've received no money on the traffic cameras.
None.
Not at this moment. We'll be following up with the new administration, and of course, Steve Nelson now in infrastructure. So hopefully we'll have something in the first quarter, because it is sitting in escrow. So there's not another step other than the CEAs and the city's process.
Okay, so the money is there. It's not that we just have to get it.
Right.
And
Sorry, just real quick, the $5 million, I think it would be helpful if we could figure out exactly what did happen with that money, because I think if we're hearing that it went to the Bourbon Street terrorist attack, I thought that money was sort of statutorily required to go to infrastructure.
That was the only thing I heard.
Yeah,
so
I know you're
take
saying that that's what you heard, so I don't want to go with that, but I think it would be useful to understand what did happen to that money and why we did not receive it, or if there's some intention that we may at some point still receive it.
I don't know how to track that down.
But I think it's probably these two guys right here.
Yeah, the city indicated it was historically funded from the 25% DPW share. So if they transfer that to us, which they did January 1, and they're saying there's not a source for them to just dedicate another $5 million, then, you know, we sort of understand that explanation, but then it's just taking from another city line item to create the $5 million for minor drainage. So we'll have to, again, have the same conversation, follow up with the new city CAO and infrastructure leads. But when we met with the infrastructure advisory board, we reiterated the same point that this was identified and was paid in fiscal 23 and 24 to sewage water, but what was not paid in 25. And one last thing on the monthly installment, November, December, got an email from the city, I think last week, that those numbers were on the way, and then the December collections and their process about 30 days after the end of the month. Typically get the notice, we submit the payment request to the city. So it takes, it hasn't been a regular cadence, but it should be about 45 days after the end of the month. We're getting the monthly installment for the 25%. So that's on our list to get on a regular schedule, because as Dave mentioned, it was not a sort of a regular schedule last year.
Okay. So received to date, roughly $8.5 million. So let me go to our expenditures. The salaries up there, spent to date with the contractor, for cleaning is roughly almost like $6.4 million. I have $7 million in work orders out there, but I've stopped them at the moment. The contract is for $9.3 million. It's an RFP, so I can fluctuate that. Contractor repairs, I'll talk about that now a little bit. I have a future slide on that. $750,000. Consultant, All South, we use them $500,000. Consultant, IC Change, $123,900. Capital, that would be my lift truck and some other Zoom camera and some other pieces of equipment. Other O&M fixing, it was pretty pricey fixing up the vac trucks, a lot of repairs to the vac trucks. So income IMF, income ARPA, and then but I've expended to date 8.8, income 8.5, so I'm in the hole right now, about $246,000, but I haven't received the November and December funds, and that'll take care of that. And then we'll, take it from there to see when I can start the contractor again. Funding scenarios. I just kept the $8 million in there. That's kind of what what I see this year, what I'm getting this year. Then looking, if I get $10 million, industry standard is that third line, in-house plus contracting percentage. If we're looking at industry standard, if you go down to the 20 million and 25 million, that's when I get in the area of providing the industry standard. So that's really what I need.
I do think it's really notable. You don't really show it here, but if you go back to the previous slide, salary makes up 3% of your budget, which I assume includes your crews that go out, but also yours and your
Yes.
admin, your engineers and everyone that works in your unit. But then 37% is going to the contractor for cleaning. And so if we're able to, perform the way we are with an in-house crew with such.
Yeah, and it is good, and obviously, the way look, I have 3 engineers myself on staff. We can do more. It'll I think it'll get better. Our numbers even look better as we get more equipment and stuff. I don't need to add more engineers.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is, so if you go to the next slide, it's like, $1 million worth of contracting equals 1% clean. But
Yes.
what is the price for the 1% for the in-house cleaning today?
Yeah, and it shows. Yeah, it shows 1%, and actually, so we're hoping that our crews are efficient enough, and as they're better at it. They're doing 2% a year per vac truck. That's our goal, and that's what actually in-house goal. If you want to be an operator 4, they're currently operator 3s. You need to show me the 2%. Yeah. So
that brings up an important question I wanted to ask real quick too, about sort of as you're building your team. Are you finding that you have the classifications necessary for all the work that you need to do?
We've worked
do
it
we
out,
need to
yeah.
look at creating new
We've
job
done all that.
classifications, or are the salaries where they need to be?
Yeah,
for
we've
you to
done
get-
it all. Javier's done a great job on that side. That was on his end, and if he was here, I'd have him talk on it. But we're set.
Okay.
We are in a good spot. We're ready to move. We're ready to put people in. We just need the funding, and we can get the people. There's been people that I've had to say, I'm sorry, I don't have the money to hire you. Some good people. There's a couple of people at CES that wanted to move on. They wanted to come on. Good equipment operators. I'm like, I just, I can't pull them in, and then they're sitting around doing nothing. I have to have equipment for them. So, I think I can still find people. It's tough to see the good people, because it's very hard to find the good people. I won't go into all that, the hiring, how tough it is, but I can still find them.
Yeah, so just a number of questions come up with the thought process that you're having. So I'm gonna once again follow on. So it sounds like the gating step in us really being able to maximize return on our in-house talent is equipment. Is that right?
Right now, yes.
Okay. And it would be interesting to me to see a funding scenario where we redirect, again, following on from what Director Anthrop has said, we'd redirect funding in-house.
If you see, so we're going down in the chart, you see vac truck count at the funding levels?
Yep.
That's where I'm adding vac trucks.
Okay.
And you'll see total vac trucks, that's in-house. So I need to, there's some slides I need to update. Right? And I knew I was going through this actually last night. I was like, oh, I wish I'd done this, wish I'd shown this. So that's
Right.
in-house. So we'd be upping our force at those funding levels. I'd be upping my force.
Right, and I guess what I'm saying is, you looked at that pie chart and you had that 37 or 30 some odd that's going to contractors, right? If we instead intentionally decrease that part of the pie and redirected a fraction of those funds toward in-house.
Yeah, and that's the goal.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And I think it'll come to play easier once I get the entire system cleaned. I think that's what the contractor will, I won't need much contractor work, if any, at that point. Once I get the whole, my main goal is to get the system clean, right? Number one priority, get the system clean. So once it's cleaned, I think in-house we can keep up with it. And I want to get to a couple other points later on in the presentation to tell you some other thoughts that are important.
Yep, so my question really is, what is driving the necessity for the contractor involvement to get it clean, as opposed to, or maybe the question should be, is it a viable strategy to invest more earlier in-house and potentially get the same or better outcome?
It's equipment and operators.
Yeah.
It's equipment and operators, and
I think
can get there quicker with the fund, with adequate funding. I can get there quicker. But I think the chart speaks for itself. I can only add one piece of equipment at $15 million or $20 million, and then one crew. So if I'm going to achieve that level of 20%, you can see in the in-house cleaning, how that starts ramping up as my funding increases. I could get there quicker, but I need the funding.
Right.
Yeah.
But the contractors are tooled up; they're ready to go. They can.
Dave, can I speak on this for a
Yeah,
second?
sure.
No, I was gonna say, just like our networks team, the end goal is to have a bigger staff of drainage for cleaning, for repairs and things of that nature. Because we just got this, on January 1st, doing that with in-house team is impossible, right? We gotta find the young talent to come in here and do that work. And then, of course, like Dave has alluded to, also the equipment that has to go with that. Right now, the equipment is, we only have 4 or 5 vac trucks working at one time. So the end goal in the long term will be to do a majority of this work in-house. I mean, that's a definite. Yeah. As that happens, the contract amounts will go lower and lower and lower, right? I don't think the contracting will ever go away. Just like on the network side, we always need their assistance. But in the near future, you should see a big jump from in-house versus contracting.
Yes,
it's gonna flip.
I understand that. That is very apparent in the scenarios that you outlined. The question I'm asking really is, why aren't we shifting our investment into our in-house capacity earlier in a scenario, as opposed to utilizing contractors for a period of time until we can get, you see what I'm saying? Like, I understand that over time, you're gonna ramp up, but is there a reason why the ramp up is at the rate it is, as opposed to an opportunity to go faster?
I spoke to the executive director about this the other day. I think it's just the challenge of finding
The talent.
the actual talent. Okay. And that is something that I spoke to the executive director yesterday, is that we need to make a more, stronger effort to do that, and that, I think, he agrees 100% that that's something that we need to do.
And I would add that it's not just limited to us, that's the industry. And that's why there's the need for that outside contractors to help, because we just don't have enough internally.
Yeah.
We talked about some things about working with trade schools, possibly having some type of internal training that we're able to do, that it becomes a pipeline for people to come to us, or actually even working with the schools to have some type of program, like they used to have automotive training. But we're going to work on that in other capacities. But on this issue, there just aren't enough out there.
Okay.
I mean, internally.
Gotcha.
I'm running long, so let me run through drainage repairs. So I spent $750,000 in point repairs. I originally had this money put in place because of I had performed a lot of inspections in the major drain lines and the bigger box culverts, and from my opinion, the number one issue with the drainage is at that point where the minor drainage meets the canals. And what happens is our canals, our major canals, our big canals are in piles. They're pile supported, so they don't move. The pipes coming into our canals are not pile supported. So they're subjective to you know, the soil differential settlement. Many of them are dropped out. Many of them are, you know, fallen out, sheared off. And that's why I had the $750,000 set aside for that. I didn't complete one of those repairs, not one. What happened is safety issues took over. Safety issues, you know, that DPW wasn't taking care of, came to my plate very quickly. But I did complete 11 drain mainline repairs and 29 manhole catch basin repairs that were all safety issues. So that's where that money went. And then a general note, when as I repair pipes, when we repair pipes, this is going to reduce the frequency of the cleaning because there's, you know, within your equations for velocity, you know, for water flow, you know, through pipes, I could say fluid flow. Velocity is a major factor. When your velocity slows down, those suspended solids settle, and that's what settles in the pipes. As you fix pipes, right, the velocity continues to move, and so you keep moving the material. So as the, you know, velocity slows, you know, your suspended solids settle in the pipe. But as we repair pipes, less cleaning will be required. So it's going to be really important in the future for us to really focus on cleaning the pipes. That's just a general note I had.
And how are you making the determination when you know, cleaning is not cost effective, it's time to repair?
That's based in our inspections.
Okay.
Yeah, our Zoom inspections. And I have a quick case study that you know, I'll run through with you. Drainage maintenance part training, our vacuum truck operator training, we do have this consultant, NASA Consulting, that has these training videos, and it's 8 hours of training. They go through that, and then we have, we do in-house training with some of the networks people. We have that also, and then also I have them go out every now and then, and we'll do this, start this up again when CS goes out. I'll have my crews go out with CES and look at the way they do things, you know, proper nozzle selection, step cleaning, depending on the type of material that's in the pipe or the degree of debris in the pipe. That last one, the repairs of catch basins, should have been in the flatbed operator training. We got a flatbed truck, which is really nice. So we've been replacing a lot of catch basin and manhole covers with that. So that's really been great. You know, mostly all safety issues. Next month, we'll start masonry work to repair the catch basin drainage manhole structures. So we'll start putting some I'm trying to get masonry, mortar mix, like in a 5-gallon tub that they can just take to the site, you know, put it on top of the catch basin that's already there, put the frame in place, put the top on, we're done. You know, big improvement. So we're working on that. This is really big. I have a PO in place, but I haven't sent it to the vendor to get a sweeper vacuum truck. This is very important. I wish I'd put a picture on here. There's Boucher is a company that makes a sweeper unit, but it also can come with an attachment that's a vacuum and a jet on it that can clean. Very important. It has a magnet that'll come out, take the catch basin cover off. Magnet, it swings it to the side. The hose goes in, vacuums out any materials, then jets the catch basin to clean it. You're in and out of there in 1 to 2 minutes. This is very important. With 5 of those pieces of equipment, I could probably clean every catch basin in the city every year. That would be nice. For each one is a $400,000 investment. That's big on our list. We'll be the first city that will have one. And we are, you know, we're going to work hard to try to get it this next coming year. It's all in place. I just need to send the money. So that'll be really good. And I'll send there's a little video. I'll try to send that out to y'all so you can see that. It's really big. To be able to say something like that we can clean every catch basin every year would be really, really huge.
But this is another one that's vulnerable to your talent pool. Yes.
Well, so this doesn't require CDL.
Okay.
It's really nice. It has a 7-yard capacity, which is great. One driver. it's really, yeah, it's very cost effective. When you look at sending a flush truck out to clean the catch basins or sending this out, it's very cost effective.
So I think on a few things here, I think these are big priorities in terms of communicating with the residents of the city, right? Like I think the first time you've got a crew out there doing masonry work and replacing a lid on a catch basin that's been gone for possibly years, we've all seen it, right? We've all seen a catch basin in our neighborhoods that's not been without a lid for years. And it probably doesn't have a lid because the piece that holds the lid on is also broken,
The
right?
frame, yeah.
To have a video of those guys doing that work, I think, and posting that on our social media is huge to be able to say, look at what we're finally fixing these problems. And I think also, I want to see a video of you driving this fancy truck around the yard. Like, I think that these are things that we need to be promoting, that like, we are actually committed to sort of fixing the problem that has existed for a long time.
We'll have that. All right, let's see, future expectations. I'd love to see us funding independent. I think we still take the IMF funds, but it would be really nice on the Sewage and Water Board level to have a drainage fee. And that's, I'm gonna say about it, because I think that's, personally the only way we get to the monies that we need. Aim for the industry standard of 20% of assets cleaned yearly. Develop the KPIs with the new asset management system, key, performance indicators that you asked about. It's tough to distinguish the contractor and our costs right now. I think I could do a day rate. Like, what's the day rate? I could work on that. But it's pretty close to what we would see on the sewer side for cleaning, and we're always two to three times cheaper. Citizen responsibility, that is cleaning 1.5 feet past the curb line, elimination of grass debris from entering drainage system. I do have like door hangers that are going to be made that my crews can have. If they go clean the catch basin is really dirty, they can put it on the door. Create a repair division within the department. That's future. Yeah. I actually have quite a good amount of people and networks that would love to do this work. And talk to Steve about that at length. Clean and repair the major drainage system. And I'll show that in future. I would, my hopes are where this is all focused on the minor drainage system. I'd like to clean the major drainage system also. I did a lot of inspections in the major drainage system, probably more than anyone else. So I see the issues there. I dropped into the Claiborne Box Canal, the brand new one, last week, and there's 6 inches to 10 inches of material throughout already. Be nice to figure out a way, get in there and clean that. So if rebid I wrote this in the rebid of the contract with if the wastewater treatment plant is utilized for spoil dumping, and environmental's working on that to see if we could dump at the wastewater treatment plant. There's some things that need to happen there, of course, but that would save us a lot of money. But I would have to rebid the contract because I'm not, the contract is.
We're dumping at the landfill now, or?
Landfill, yes.
So we're paying tipping fees every time?
Yes. So.
And I know that I know this isn't your area, but maybe some of the other folks at the table, I know there's some sort of work happening at the wastewater treatment plant to accept more like porta potty loads and like that kind of stuff. Is that connected to this, or is it a separate sort of permitting issue?
I don't know that it's separate, but it's all in the same vein of being able to make sure that we do have the proper permits and the equipment and facilities in place to be able to accept this. So certainly something we're aware of and looking to be able to do.
I just threw some bullet points out. There's a couple things like
I think
identified.
that's a great point and something for us to consider, that we could potentially save a lot of costs. And if it means prioritizing the project at the wastewater treatment plant to accept that waste, I think that's important to know that has an impact internally. It's potentially revenue generating for the wastewater treatment plant from outside people who want to deposit their waste, but also for us, it would be a cost savings.
Absolutely. Kind of internal, identify the green infrastructure projects and downstream limitations, like I talked about before. So I think that's important to do internally. Big picture goal. This was an old slide. I know a lot of people gave me grief on this slide. This is an old slide. We have an updated slide. I just want to point out that, in the future, what I'd like to see is we have you know, I have my office staff, maintenance administration. That's a lot less. It's a lot less than you'd see now. But if we had the high funding, like the 25 to 35 million, I would have probably a technical services department, much like the networks has now, department I used to run. And that would be probably a couple engineers that would run the contracts. You know, would run the contracts for cleaning, contracts for repairs. And then, you know, hopefully, yeah, we'll convert over to our own forces. But, you know, with that kind of funding, we want to get after these main repairs that need to happen. And then, you know, we'd have GIS support. It'd be a lot less than that. And then we would go into the closed, we have the closed canals, the under 36 inches, and also closed canals above 36 inches. And then the open canals also, I'd like to pull in to where we're looking at the design elevations and slopes of the existing canals and checking those and possibly, you know, if we have to do dredging or something like that, make those recommendations and possibly get that done.
Dave, I just want to highlight that. I think that's one of those opportunities that we were speaking of earlier, being able to take everything together and look at it as a whole system, right?
Yeah.
The whole flow from getting through
Whole
the catch
flow.
basin to the pump station. So
Yeah.
just wanted to highlight that as one of those particular areas.
I even said I'd help out with the pump stations with the cleaning screens. If I'm taking the, you know, because the cleaning screens
take
need
you
a
up
lot.
on
If
it.
we had that kind of funding, that would be really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, hey, I know I'm running late. Let me go through this real quick. We did a quick case study with All South Engineers. This is the Treme area, as you see in red. It represents about 1.5% of the system. They went through, we've zoom cameraed the whole area. What do we have? I wish I had a pointer. You have critical repairs, high repairs, minor repairs, and low repairs. Total repairs that they've seen in this area is 336 total repairs of the pipes. Total length of those pipes is 22,000 linear feet. So this is damaged by pipe size and priority level. And if you see the priority level, the pipe sizes are like the 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, 15-inch, 18-inch, you know, and then you see have critical, high, moderate, low. Where I would start, if you see those 13 and the critical high that are the 24-inch and 30-inch, those are probably my most critical because they're the furthest downstream. Probably start there. I'd have to look at it a little more. Then damage by the pipe size also here and different types of damages: blockage, broken pipe, collapsed pipe, cracks, fractures, cross bores, infiltration, offset joints, partial collapse, roots, sag. There's a lot of different failure mechanisms there. And it's a lot to look at. Let's see, 15% of that whole area has damaged pipes. It's pretty big. If we looked at this is just the critical and high pipes. The total repair cost would be around $3.7 million for 1.5% of the system. So if you see my note at the bottom, if you applied it to the drainage system, critical and high could possibly be in the $240 million range. And I don't think I think after 30 years of not doing much to the system, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, no, it's a tremendous bargain for spending $0 for 30 years.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And just want to show y'all a few photos, cracks and fractures of pipes. Just general photos. Damaged collapses, you see that. If you see like the top middle one, you see that a lot from that type of collapse from at the intersection of our drainage canals, the major drainage canals that are on piles, and then the pipes coming in. So, yep. And then partial collapses. You have this water's still able to make it through, but it's not in very good condition. And this is all in the Treme area. These are those pipes. And I can tell you, I know I was with Mr. Heyman when we went to the community engagement, and we cleaned that area, but we're not even completed cleaning that area. I think we still have about 25,000 feet of line to do, but they've noticed a difference just from the cleaning of that area.
I'll add quickly, that was one of the first community meetings that I went to. And one woman said, I sleep with sandbags out by my front door because the only drain that it works is it's right in front of my house. And we came in, we used our strike team process that we're developing and went in a concentrated manner. And they came back, when we went back about 3 months later, as you said, they were pleased with the progress that we made. So that, it was appreciated. I think it shows that the strike team aspect works and helps as far as us going in a concentrated manner. And it made for a good relationship with them.
Yeah, she had sent me the information the next day after the meeting, because I was there also, and we jumped right on it. And yeah, so it was nice to do that.
Good job.
I have a quick question. During the period of Hurricane Katrina, the aftermath, a lot of these pipes, I'm not sure, I'm not talking about the ones that were pictured right here, were collapsed because of the weight limit of trucks on certain streets. Is there any proactive means that we can have with DPW now, so that way if you have recurring pipes that are crushing, that we get a weight limit? Because sometimes based upon what the street is made of and what's under it, to where that street, if we're continuously repairing those streets, the pipes underneath the street, that we can get a weight limit of the trucks that are on that street proactively to stop having to repair these.
You know, that's a really good point. I haven't gone into that, but it's a really good point. As I inspected the entire St. Louis Canal underground, and I saw the way it was built. It was the old structure with the brick, brick arch, beautiful looking. But I think about when that was built, right, and what the loadings were then, and the loadings for design. You always have safety factors, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this really should not be a bus and truck route.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's something maybe we should, look into in the future. Yeah, but I think it's a great point. It's something that was in my mind when I was actually going through that canal and looking at it. Like, wow, it's beautiful. It looks great, but wow, you could, I'm underneath, and the trucks are rolling on top of me, and I can.
How often do you have to continuously repair something when it just cannot support that load on a continuous basis?
Well, amazingly enough, there hadn't been any, catastrophic collapses. In my thoughts, I don't know if it's a matter of time or not, but possibility. Yeah, especially if you build the street and then you're not removing the street and putting it back at the same elevation. You're adding on top of the street. You're adding more dead load, and that makes a difference also. Okay, I think that's it for me. I ran a long time. Thank you all. Maybe should I apologize for that? I don't know.
No, please. This was very useful and tons of information. I think it would be great to see all of this collected somehow in like a document that could be provided to City Council and the media and partners. That is sort of a maybe a 1 year success story sort of document that we can use and also help to build the case for additional funding streams in the future.
Well, it was supposed to provide this quarterly, I think, to the city. So
Right.
on a quarterly basis is what I want to update this on and update anything else on.
Great.
So yeah.
I just wanted to, continue to encourage us to think about ways to bring the community along in this process, right? I think it's a lot easier for folks to understand our end goal and to celebrate with us when we get there if they are a part of the process as we're moving forward. The other question I have is what decisions or guidance do you need from this committee in order to advance the next steps for your team?
It's funding related. It's funding. Yeah. Caitlin tells me, stop saying it. Everybody knows it. Stop saying it.
No. I mean,
Community engagement,
Right.
funding. Those are the two biggest things,
Yeah.
going forward.
Supporting the staffing. I'm sorry, Randy, but.
Yeah.
I would add, of course, funding is a common line that we say. I am pushing our lobbyists. I have been met with finance and pushing our financial team to see is there anything creative that we can do to obtain additional funding. At DC Water, we had a 100-year century green bond that was successful. Different reason, different economy. But I'm asking to look, is there anything that we can do that's new? Is there anything that we had during Katrina that we didn't use that we could dust off and try to re-energize it? And so that's the constant beating of the drum that we're doing.
I think also, I noticed there was an article yesterday about what are they called now, community project funding earmarks. I know we've been successful at getting some of that funding in the past, so, like maybe this could be a priority for us going forward, that if it's a matter of getting 2 more vac trucks to increase our in-house team, capital outlay or community project funding from Congress to cover that upfront cost, and then we can find the operators and we can sort of backfill the other things and start to cut down on that. Because what I'm hearing is there's a bit of a phasing issue with sort of reducing the contractors and increasing the in-house, but if we could get another source that could plug one of those gaps and sort of accelerate it, that would be really a huge win, I think, for us.
And I'm not rigid on that. I'm flexible. Like if I know 3 flush trucks gonna be working regularly, I'll pull another crew. I'll hire another crew. Hey, if 4 of those trucks aren't going down, I'll get another crew in. We'll train them up.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I'm saying, I think, and ask it for a couple of, $1 million for 2 vac trucks or something is an easy ask, I think, when you're approaching a
610,000 apiece,
legislator.
yeah.
But yeah, so,
But I won't need a huge fleet of vac trucks, I think, after the whole system's cleaned.
Okay.
All right, what I'll have is probably in-house people that will Zoom, or maybe I contract that, well, I'll see what the numbers are, to Zoom the system. We're Zooming 20% of the system, what needs to be cleaned, and we'll take it from there. And so my future, we've been chasing the 311s in the problem-prone areas. My future is maybe looking sometime this year or next year is to look at each district, each council district, and north, south, east, west, and start cleaning that way on a plan, more of a plan. So, okay.
A question for Steve. Steve, you mentioned about talent and trying to retain talent. Is there an opportunity for education with in-house so that you can train people up, so that the investment is the educational piece to get that talent, or is it salary-based, or how does that work? I know you spoke about that.
No, we bring in talent of every level, from just the labor with just a high school GED all the way up to 5 to 10 years experience. So it just depends on what level of experience that person has. But in terms of training, we do in-house training. I mean, Dave has the crews to send those guys out there, go with the staff, and show them how to use a flush truck, show them how to use excavators, things of that nature. So we do in-house, but I am looking into exterior forms of training as well. So that's up and coming.
Thank you.
thanks, Dave. Any other questions?
Thank y'all.
All right, great. Any public comments?
No public comments, Chair.
All right, well, if no other matters, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you.
We're now adjourned.
Thank you.